second question that came in was, how do you help individuals? So this is, if I'm a manager, how can I help individuals and teams shift their locus of control towards more internal? So this one sounds kind of funny. It starts with being a parent and recognizing that by the time you get somebody into your organization, that phase is already passed. But it really starts with unconditional love. So that's the first part, is that person needs to know that they have a pretty solid safety net that they can fall down on. The second component of that, after they know that they have a pretty solid safety net, and I'm not talking about coddling, I'm talking about a solid safety net, and those are two very different things, is progressive overload. And that's, consistent, very intentional, and over time, progressively overloading somebody. And that's how you develop a skill in any area. That's how you develop capabilities, whether it's something physical, whether it's running, weightlifting, bicycling, whatever it happens to be, or something mentally, is consistently giving somebody something that's just a little bit more challenging, a little bit longer, whatever it is. And I would always go back to the 10% rule with running or almost any other physical activity, is that you never want to make more than a 10% increase in your distance, your pace, your weight, whatever it is, at any, more than once a week type of thing. And even 10%, depending on, as you get nearer the top of your game, everybody has a performance curve. As you get nearer the top of your game, it might be more like 1%. It's not going to be in these 10% increments. So how do you go build that? This is about being really, really intentional. One is just standard work procedures. And as funny as it sounds, just the act of following a standard work procedure starts to build confidence. When somebody's doing something over and over and it's the right thing to do and they're getting the right outcomes really consistently, that starts to build confidence. And that's the baseline of it. And then starting to check on other people, looking at, look at yourself, look at other people. A couple of weeks ago, I heard somebody who's in charge of project management. And he's like, "Wow, I failed my own audit on performance." He's actually checking others and checking himself to see how he's doing. And then starting to make improvements to those standard work procedures. These are small things. And then starting to, once you've gotten really good at making some small improvements, now maybe you start to develop a procedure all on your own. Paul Akers talked about that a lot in 2-second lean improvements. And those are super valuable, especially learning from failures, learning that I can fail, but I'm not a failure. It sounds really simple. It's really, really challenging. And if somebody, depending on the environment that they were raised in, depending on managers that they may have had in the past, that's, either way, you get what you get out of a person. You've got to start building from there. And then, we kind of, once somebody's got those basics down, of these small improvements, these 2-second lean improvements, back up and start looking at the whole workflow. So we'll use like a high involvement workflow mapping process, and we'll get teams together to see, do they start to see the connections between all these things? And do they see improvements they can make, not to the individual procedures, but to the workflow itself? And then, sometimes like we call it fill or kill. It's a fairly common thing where for these small improvements, you're forcing teams to identify the small improvements. Everybody can identify something that bugs them, right? This gets back, Paul Akers talks about in 2-second lean. And, they can identify the small things. Look, if you haven't moved this thing forward and filled it and fixed it in a 30-day period of time, just kill it, pull it off the list. So you avoid people getting into this habit of these forever to-do lists. If you really want a forever to-do list for your company, and invite any given consulting firm in, and I promise you, we can make a list of a million things that you can go do. Totally not helpful. And then as people get progressively better at that, have them participate in meetings, just starting with sitting and observing where these progressively larger decisions and larger resource commitments are being made. And then they will start to learn from the discussions and the dialogue. They're not really participating in it. They'll feel really weird about it while they're there, right? Because they're not going to feel like they're doing anything. They're not going to feel like they're being paid attention to. Let them sit in the discomfort for 6 months, 8 months, for 10, 12 of these meetings. And they'll start to get in a rhythm and start to see where they can add value and everything. And you just progressively build people from there. So that's how you do it. Probably a little bit of a longer answer, but this is really the heart of talent development.
Go to dbmteam.com for more insights and resources, or to ask a question.